Welcome to the Inspire Me podcast channel. We have Jess here today with us. Hi, Jess. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good, thank you. So today's topic, we will be talking about career transition and how can we care less about what people think. Jess will be giving us, sharing her experience, how she navigated through her own career transition this year. I'm very excited to have her here on our channel today, and I'm looking forward to share this podcast with you all in what Jess is going to say in a moment. I'm just going to start with how do I know Jess? So Jess is my yoga teacher. And a few years back, she had her own studio, and she was my dedicated yoga teacher. I loved all her classes. And then during the pandemic, she also invited me to be on her podcast channel. In fact, she was the person who taught me how to do podcasting. So how cool is that? So thank you, Jess.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
And then more recently, she's joined another studio, and so certainly go to her classes and love her work. We are friends. She's my teacher. We talk about many different topics, and so today it will be such a great opportunity to really hear her personal story. So in terms of her background, in her bio, she is a yoga and meditation teacher, as well as a part-time primary school teacher. She is passionate about health and well-being for all individuals and strives to impart her wisdom experience in this area into all areas of her life. Jess began her wellness journey in her early 20s after realizing that her childhood trauma was impacting her relationship with others, but especially her relationship with herself. She stumbled upon yoga at the age of 25, and from there began her journey inward towards healing. So throughout her experience as an educator and a yoga and meditation teacher, she has learned different strategies and modalities to help a wide audience and strive to learn and grow alongside her students. So it's very, very interesting in her yoga classes. She'll bring in some personal stories and some maybe a quote that she's come across, and the yoga class always ends on this beautiful, positive and empowering note. So welcome, Jess.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So I guess the first question is if you can just tell us a little bit about your career today.
So I studied university in my early 20s and finished my degree at about 21, and I was doing primary school teaching as my degree. From there, I literally jumped straight into the profession. So I didn't really have a gap year or time off. I went immediately into full-time work. I was a full-time primary school teacher of infants. So I did kindergarten, year 1, year 2, and that was beyond brilliant. I loved them. The little ones are so exciting and fun to be with. And so I did that for about 6 to 7 years until obviously recently, where I think it was more so during COVID. I had that time where it was more so at home. I was teaching online, and that gave me the space to just contemplate whether this was what I wanted to continue on with. Coming back after the pandemic, it was really interesting to notice how my energy levels had dipped and how my passion was still there, but it was sort of shifting. And I think my audience of where I wanted to direct my expertise and my wisdom was definitely shifting. And then fast forward to this year, where I obviously ended up with COVID. I'm sure we all did at some point. And I think having COVID was one of those things that gave me that time again to look inwardly and to feel into whether this was really right for me, to reflect on what my next step was going to be, because I think that there was that sort of 6-month period where I wasn't sure what I was going to do. It was like I knew there was something more for me, but I wasn't sure. And I had sort of been in and out of yoga teaching. I wasn't consistent with it at this point as well. And then after having COVID and coming back, I was like, okay, I think I know what I need to do. And the thought of quitting my job didn't really pop into my head until sort of towards the tail end of the term. And it didn't take me long to actually make that decision. I think it's something that, you know, we kind of think about, and we want to it's almost like just an idea in our heads that we never really follow through with, but it felt right for me. And I'm very much a feeler when it comes to decision making. You know, I have to feel through that decision. It has to be over an extended period of time, but the decision just continued to feel right. And then yeah, put in my resignation. I had about 4 weeks or so where I was sort of like exiting. And then, yeah, and then from there, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do things that bring me joy only. And that was a big motivator for, you know, where I ended up now, which is part-time yoga teacher and then also part-time primary school teacher. So I've been able to enjoy the best of both worlds, which has been great.
Thank you. So I really liked what you said, do things that bring me joy. Um, I'm wondering, what were some of the key challenges you had when you were thinking about quitting? Maybe it was that if there's a possibility of, some people have an attachment that they've been in
Yeah,
that role for a long time, and
yeah, definitely.
letting go of that
Yeah.
professional identity. You should share with us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that was definitely a challenge. You know, I think that in our world today, there's a big emphasis on productivity. And I know there's a buzzword that was going around more recently, you know, the hustle, like what's your side hustle? And for a long time, yoga was my side hustle, and then obviously became a business. And I think productivity was at the forefront. You know, we want to make money, we want to be successful, we want to feel secure and stable. And I think that the biggest challenge in that respect was you know, the judgment that might have come from people like, oh, you're not going to work full time, you know, what are you going to do with yourself? That was a huge challenge that I feel I had, or obstacle that I feel I had to accept and just allow to be, because if I allowed that noise and those voices to kind of deter me, then I wouldn't have made the decision. Another factor was definitely finances, because, you know, I went from having this stable job, which helped me to, you know, purchase a home and all that kind of thing. But I was literally letting all that go and allowing things to just be. So that was definitely another challenge. And yeah, you know, there's a lot of fear around that, because we want to feel secure, we want to feel stable. And our jobs do help us feel that way, because it provides us with an income. And without an income, we can't do the things that we want to do. So those are probably the two main things, you know, worrying about what the world would think of me, and then, you know, finance and security. So
Thank you. So how did you then navigate through these perspectives that people are having and
yeah,
mindset?
like
How did you stop that from being affected by that?
I think it was just being really real with myself about who I was and what I was capable of doing. I
Mm,
know I'm someone who cannot, like, and if I try to now, I'd probably burn out, but I cannot do the slug, or the slog, I should say, you know, and work full time without it being purposeful, or without having something that's going to bring me joy. And I think that that's where I was just becoming burnt out and tired. So yeah, that was definitely one thing. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of what else. Can you repeat your question for me?
sure. I'm just wondering, how did you manage
Yeah.
the thoughts, other people's
Yeah,
perspectives, and
yeah, just I think just being real with myself, knowing who I was as a person, knowing that the decision that I was making was ultimately going to benefit myself for sure. And I think that's something that we struggle with. You know, we always want to put everyone else before us, but in doing so, in filling up my own cup, I knew that I was going to then fill up the cups of the people around me. I definitely wasn't able to fill up anyone's cup, because I was feeling like I was burning out, and I was feeling like I needed a shift in some way, shape,
mm,
or form. So yeah, being real with yourself.
yeah, perfect. That's awesome. Being real with yourself. And the sign here sounds like, burning out, not
Mm,
feeling joy at work. And
mm,
sometimes we need to look at these signs to go, okay, well, what's going on? Why
yeah.
are we not happy? Does
Mm-hmm.
this work no longer bring me joy? To stop
Mm,
and reflect,
that's
and
right. Yeah,
yes, and
sure.
be real with
Yeah, be
yourself.
real. Yeah. And it is in that reflection, you know, we sort of take the time to ask ourselves these questions. Is it the environment? Is it the work? Is it bringing me joy? And sometimes when you take a step back, it gives you that opportunity to see whether it is working for you or not. And, you know, sometimes when you let something go, it will come back in another way if it's meant for you. And I'm a firm believer in that as well. So, yeah.
I think what's important to know is that you had the side hustle, yoga, and that helps you when you try something on the side for a short period of time or ongoing period of time. And then when you transition into a new career, it's a lot easier as opposed to giving up one thing completely and going into something else.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is definitely a lot easier because it's almost like you get a taste of it, you know, here and there. And look, at this point in time, I'm enjoying the best of both worlds. You know, I get to teach kids, which brings me so much joy. I think being around children is always going to make you feel more youthful and at ease. And then I also get to impart the wisdom that I gain, you know, through that experience, but also through my own learnings in the yoga environment. So, yeah.
Now let's talk a little bit about yoga. In yoga, many of the yoga teachers I've had always reinforce that you do not compare yourself to the next person, to the other people in the room. I love that philosophy, and I'd just like you to elaborate on this and how this affects the way we live.
Yeah, definitely. So I think on the yoga mat, as you would know, it's quite common to compare yourself to the person next to you. You know, someone beside you might be doing a handstand. You're like, oh my gosh, how do I get into that? Like, and it sort of challenges your ego because we have this way that we see ourselves, you know, and whether it's positive or negative, it doesn't really matter. But when our identity is challenged by the people around us, it really makes us question ourselves. So, you know, in terms of comparing yourself to other people, I think it's important to know that your journey and your experiences are unique to you. There's no other person that has gone through the life that you've gone through, the traumas that you may have gone through, you know, the joys, the lows, the highs, the pain. And you've experienced that for a reason. You've experienced that to become the person that you are. I can't compare myself to you. You have a very different, you know, whether it's a different outlook or a different life mindset. I can't compare myself to you. It's not healthy for myself. It's not healthy for you. It's not healthy for our relationship. And I think that if we can get to a point where we're comfortable with our own journey, we're comfortable with who we are as a person, and we're really living authentically, when we do that, it allows us to not let the comparisons or not even let that ego, that mind, and those thought processes that come through, it just allows us to not attach ourselves to it and just really live in the moment. I think comparison really does, it just makes us feel crappy. It never makes us feel good. And I choose to not feel crappy as much as I can. So yeah, I think with my decisions to change my career, I really had to let go of what I was seeing other people doing, because if I continued to do the things that other people did and it didn't align with me, well, then I was going to either burn out or just become really, really unhappy. And we owe it to ourselves to at least seek joy and seek pleasure. So, yeah.
So that's really insightful how yoga practice can teach us philosophy in the way we live. And the other point to note is that we all have different physical bodies.
That's
so
right.
You can't, just because he or she can do that pose, like we've got different structures.
Yeah, exactly. We're so different, and I think it's about embracing our own uniqueness, whether it's a physical uniqueness or an experiential uniqueness. We were put here in this capacity to share our own unique frequency, vibe, whatever you want to call it. That's we owe it to ourselves, we owe it to the world.
And I'll probably just mention someone I follow for many years, an inspirational speaker, Wayne Dyer. He has a beautiful quote, and it goes like this, that what you think of me is none of my business.
No, it's not.
So
it's nobody's business.
What you think of me is none of my business. And I remember writing this quote out probably about 10 years ago and putting it up on my wall. It was a quote, and so some of my clients, even my sister, would refer to this quote to remind themselves that stop caring so much about everyone else's, what they think of you. And it really helps you really focus on what you think about yourself.
That's right.
That's more important than what other people think of you, and being more kind to yourself. And as you said before, Jess, that it's important to know who you really are, embrace who you are, and focus on your journey as opposed to comparing yourself to other people. And so just wanted to add that in, that quote really resonated with me around, you know, what you think of me is none of my business.
Yeah, it's perfect, you know, and as you said, when you're living your best, like your best life, your most authentic life, you know, when you are who you really are and you're sharing that with the world, you inspire others to do the same. It's always going to have a domino effect. When you're pretending to be someone you're not, or you're comparing yourself to someone, it doesn't really inspire other people to do what you wanted, or to do what you're doing. You can feel the difference between authenticity and inauthenticity. So
yes. Moving along, I asked all the guests on the show this question around what is a book that you would like to give away as a gift for somebody? So you buy this book for someone.
Yeah. Okay. Look, so
why?
many come to mind. Look, are we talking self-help books or fantasy? Because if it was fantasy, Harry Potter all the way. But look, a book that I haven't finished this book, by the way, but it's been one that I've been reading for a long time, and I kind of come back to it, you know, and I read it, and then I just allow whatever it is that book is teaching me, you know, the messages, the learnings, to just imprint on my life, and my practices might shift as a result, and then I come back to it. And it's called Self-Compassion by Kristen Neff. And it's all about how we can take the love and, you know, the compassion that we give to others, and we give it to ourselves, because oftentimes we don't realize we don't actually know how to regulate our emotions. We don't know how to parent ourselves. You know, when we experience tough times, especially, we are our own worst critic. And this book has been a godsend, in the sense that it's helped me to quieten that mind, that self-critic, because, you know, look, you can compare yourself to other people and they might criticize what you're doing, but in reality, we are our own worst critics sometimes. And this book has softened the blow that I might have experienced, given all of the different decisions that I made in relation to my career. It made it a lot easier.
Awesome. The Self-Compassion, what's the name of the author again?
Kristen Neff.
Yeah.
Kristen with an I. Yeah. I'll send it through to you at the end.
Thank you.
No worries.
I actually think that she's got some meditations, right?
Yeah, I do believe so. She's quite renowned in the self-help world and the healing world. So
yes. I think she has a couple of meditations online. So that's awesome.
Apologies.
And what is one thing that you do every day, Jess, that makes you happier and more aligned with who you are?
Ooh. One thing, I don't think I could put it down to one thing. I'm very much, I like to flow with how I'm feeling, but I do try to prioritize a movement practice of some sort. So on some days it's yoga, on some days it's a gentle stretch, on some days it's a walk. It really just depends on how I'm feeling. And some kind of meditative practice, whether it's, you know, sitting with my thoughts, whether it's going for a walk. So it really looks differently every day. But if we kind of summarize all of that, it's just time to myself, time to connect with me. And I think that helps me to be happier. It helps me to share who I really am. I think the first thing that, you know, speaking from my own past experience, the first thing I used to do in the past was wake up and look at my phone. And I'm not connecting to myself when I'm doing that. And look, I'm guilty of doing that from time to time still. But if I do those self practices, if I connect to myself, I'm then the trajectory of my day just shifts. And I'm sure you've experienced it yourself when, you know, you start your day off in quiet, in stillness. So time to myself, whatever that looks like, movement, meditation.
Yes, it's really, like you said earlier, refilling your cup, making sure that you have have self-compassion for yourself, and then you can then go out to the world and share your compassion with
That's
others.
right.
If you're
Yeah.
on empty, you've got nothing to share. You're burnt out and so forth. So it's important to refill your cup.
Yeah.
And I love what you shared about the mobile phone. I mean, there's a lot of people who do that. The mobile phones, their alarm, and they touch their phone as read through notifications first thing in the morning. So in the last 4 years, I deliberately leave the mobile phone in the lounge room.
Yeah.
Alarms are on, but I just turn off the alarm and that's it. I don't look at the
Perfect.
phone. So absolutely.
I read this analogy, and this was a real rude awakening for me about the mobile phone, and how we might scroll through Instagram, and it was like, imagine all the people that you're seeing on Instagram just walking into your bedroom and waking you up. And that's pretty much what we're allowing when we open up our phones and check our social media. On an energetic level, you are allowing these people into your space. And so that for me was like, whoa, I didn't think about it like that. And then I think that was where a shift sort of happened. I'm like, okay, no one's coming into my bedroom at 6 a.m. It's just me.
I love that analogy. Love that.
Yeah.
And while we talk about Instagram, now I've got to contact you, follow you. It's Jessica R Yoga.
Yeah.
Correct?
That's me.
Jessica R Yoga on Instagram.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to add in reference to the topic on career transition? How can we care less about what people think? Any other ideas that have come to mind?
I think just in a nutshell, we did talk about a lot, and I feel like we have summarized a lot of it, but remember that your decisions, the decisions that you make, you have to live with at the end of the day. It's not I make this decision and then my neighbor's going to live with it. It's me who has to live with that. And if I am not happy with my decisions, if I'm not happy with the person who I'm looking at in the mirror, then it's only up to me to change that. It's not up to anybody else. And I think that when you think about it in that way, you immediately care less what other people think, because tomorrow, your friends may come, they may go, and you have periods where you don't talk and you do, but you're with yourself 24/7. You have to live with yourself 24/7. So you may as well make the best out of your life. And if that means a career change, then take it. If something else is calling to you, then give it a go. And I'm someone who is a massive experimenter. I will try all of the things and see if they work, because what else can I do? If I look back on my life, I don't want to have a regret and say, oh, I could have tried that. Oh, didn't do that. So yeah, look in the mirror and remember you're with yourself 24/7.
Thank you, Jess. That's
No worries.
that's profound. Love what you just shared about just try things out. See it as an experiment. And
that's right. It is.
Yes.
It is. Life is an experiment, and it may not work. And so it doesn't work. Try something else.
Exactly. Yes.
We have, while you said that, it just reminded me, when we were kids, we had this curiosity about life. We wanted to try all of the things. And I think if we can tap into that childlike curiosity again and remember that life is just an adventure, it is an experiment, we can really, I guess, feel more authentic in ourselves, and honor that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jess. It's been a real pleasure.
All good. Thank you for having me. Oh, it was so much fun. I feel like the time just flew by. Where did it go? Can we talk more?
Of course. Now, just to the audience, stay tuned. I will be having some new speakers coming on in the next few months. And thank you so much for your support on this channel. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you. Have a lovely, lovely day.
You too.